The Story of the Blue Hood. Part 1. The Monster and the Monk. The Introduction, a paradox of the human spirit. What if the purest love could forge the cruelest monster? What if the deepest grief, the most inconsolable sorrow, did not simply break a heart, but remade it into something else, something that hungers? We are taught that the path to enlightenment is one of virtue, discipline, and compassion. But what if the path to damnation began with the very same things? What if a devotion so complete, so all-consuming, could become a curse that devoured not only the soul, but the flesh of others? There are stories that serve as warnings, and then there are stories that are maps of the most treacherous territories within the human spirit, charting the razor-thin line between sainthood and savagery. Tonight, we journey into one such map, a tale from a time of moonlight and rain, from an age when the supernatural world pressed close against our own. It is a story of a man of God who became a demon, and the terrible, beautiful price of his salvation. It is the story of the Blue Hood. The setting, a world of shadows and stories. Our story begins not in an age of constant war, but in its long, unsettling shadow. We are in the heart of the 18th century, in the Japan of the Edo period. For over 100 years, the Tokugawa shogunate has enforced a rigid, unyielding peace. The samurai, their swords now more symbol than tool, write poetry and practice bureaucracy. In this world, a rising merchant class developed a hunger for new forms of entertainment, particularly the telling of Kaidan, or supernatural tales. At gatherings called Ugetsu Monogatari Kaidankai, guests would tell 100 ghost stories, extinguishing a candle after each one, until the room was plunged into darkness and terror for the final tale. It was for this world that a brilliant, crippled physician and scholar from Osaka named Ueda Akinari wrote his masterpiece. Born in 1734, Akinari was a man haunted by his own body. A bout with smallpox left his fingers permanently deformed. He wrote under the defiant pen name The Eccentric Pruning Cripple, a stark embrace of his own perceived monstrosity. In 1776, he published Ugetsu Monogatari, Tales of Moonlight and Rain. These were not simple folk tales. They were sophisticated, psychologically complex explorations of what happens when human passion, love, lust, ambition, grief, collides with the impossible. In Akinari's work, the true monsters are not invaders from another world. They are born from the attachments we refuse to let go. The Encounter, a saint meets a demon's shadow. Into this world of simmering passions and lingering spirits walks a man who seems its very opposite, the Zen master Kaian. An itinerant monk, he is a man who travels with the clouds and the water, unburdened by possessions or attachments. One autumn evening, his journey takes him to the remote hamlet of Tomita in Shimotsuke province. As he seeks lodging, the villagers returning from the fields see his monastic robes in the gloom, and a cry of pure terror rips through the evening air. The demon of the mountain has come! Everyone hide! The village erupts in panic. Kaian stands perfectly still, a silent island in a sea of fear. Soon, the village elder emerges, his face pale but his eyes discerning, and seeing a simple priest, apologizes for the chaos. He explains that it was the sight of Kaian's robes that triggered their terror. The elder tells of the abbot of the Daichuji temple on the mountain, a man once revered for his profound learning and virtue. But the elder's voice lowers, thick with sorrow. He had one weakness, one profound attachment, an acolyte of exquisite beauty. Part 2. The Anatomy of a Monster. The backstory, a love that consumes. The elder's story unfolds a tragedy of corrupted devotion. The abbot's love for the acolyte was an obsession that went beyond a master's care. When the acolyte suddenly fell ill and died, the abbot's grief was not a river, it was a flood that broke the banks of his sanity and drowned his soul. In a desperate, horrifying desire to never be parted from his beloved, he committed an unspeakable act. He unburied the acolyte's corpse and consumed it. This desecration awakened a new and terrible hunger for human flesh. The man of learning was gone, replaced by a cannibal demon, an oni in the robes of a priest, that now haunts the mountainside. The confrontation, a plea from hell. The villagers expect Kaian to show fear, but the Zen master is an image of profound stillness. The next morning, he walks the overgrown path to the ruined Daichuji temple. The gardens are choked with weeds, and a dead silence hangs in the air. In the main hall, he finds the abbot, now a thing of horror, emaciated, with wild hair and nails, his eyes burning with a tormented light. He sees Kaian, and for a moment the beast within him rises. But then it sees something more. It recognizes in Kaian's perfect calm the purity it has lost. The creature does not lunge, it weeps. You are a living Buddha. Teach me a way to forget." This is not a simple monster. This is a soul in hell, fully aware of its own damnation and begging for release. The prescription, a hood and a puzzle. Kaian leads the creature to a large stone in the garden and has him sit in the posture of meditation. Then, in a simple, deliberate act, he places his own dark blue hood, the auzukan, over the priest's matted hair. This is not exorcism, it is spiritual medicine. In Japanese Buddhism, the color blue represents the medicine Buddha, a symbol of wisdom, compassion, and healing. The hood itself, like the basket worn by wandering Komuso monks, is a tool to negate the self and dissolve the ego. With this gesture, Kaian is clothing the priest's raging ego in boundless wisdom. He then gives the priest his task, a Zen koan designed to break the intellect that is trapped in a loop of suffering. The river moon shines, the pine wind blows. This long night, this clear evening, for what purpose does it exist? The purpose of a koan is not to be answered with logic, but to force the mind to abandon its search for meaning and confront reality as it is. When you understand its true meaning, Kaian tells the priest, you will find your original heart. With that, the master turns and walks away, leaving the demon to its impossible task. Part 3. Annihilation and Echoes. A shout that shatters illusion. An entire year passes. Kaian continues his journey as the seasons turn. Winter snows melt, spring blossoms scatter, summer cicadas cry. On his return journey, he visits the Daichuji temple one last time. It is now almost completely swallowed by nature, and it seems impossible that anything could still live there. But as he draws close, he hears a faint, insect-like whisper repeating the kōan endlessly. There, amidst the weeds, is the priest. He is no longer a man or a monster, but a skeletal husk, a thing of skin and bone who has done nothing but sit and repeat the koan for a year. The obsessive nature that was the engine of his damnation has been fully harnessed and focused onto this single, insoluble point. Kaian raises his wooden staff, the zenjo, and delivers a zen katsu shout, not a prayer, but a challenge. He demands the answer to the koan's second half. Well now, for what purpose? At the master's shout, a final understanding shatters the priest's illusion. His form dissolves like ice in the morning sun. It does not burn or scream, it simply ceases to be. Where the monstrous figure had sat, there is only a pile of white bones on the mossy ground, with the single blue hood resting on top. The resolution, the price of liberation. This was not an execution, it was a graduation. In the language of Zen, this was jobutsu, the attainment of Buddhahood. The priest was not destroyed, he was liberated. The year-long meditation resulted in the complete annihilation of the suffering self, the ego, and the attachments that had created his monstrous form. His karma, his inga, was resolved. The spiritual debt was paid. Kaian would stay to restore the temple, which is said to stand to this day, but the story's influence was destined to spread far beyond the quiet hamlet of Tomita. The legacy, the monster in the modern machine. Ueda Akinari perfected the psychological monster, a demon cultivated within ourselves through passion and pain. This core idea, that overwhelming desire can warp a person and that every wish has a karmic price, has become a piece of thematic DNA in modern Japanese storytelling. Consider the celebrated manga series xxXHolic. Its central character, the witch Yuko Ichihara, runs a shop that grants wishes to clients trapped by a powerful obsession, a holic. Yuko grants any wish, but always for an equivalent price that forces the wisher to confront the very attachment that enslaves them. Each of Yuko's clients is, in their own way, the priest from our story. Or look to the world of video games. In Nioh 2, players battle the one Yudo, or wheel monk, a giant, flaming wheel with the tormented face of a Buddhist monk at its hub. This is the archetype of the corrupted holy man, a terrifying, kinetic form of the priest of Daichuji. A special blue-flamed version of this enemy offers a striking, if perhaps unintentional, visual echo of the Aozuken itself. The wheel monk is a perfect symbol of how this 18th century literary idea remains a potent and terrifying figure in the 21st century imagination. Epilogue. The Razor's Edge. The final moral of the story. We began with a question. What if the purest love could forge the cruelest monster? The tale of the Blue Hood provides a chilling answer. It tells us that our most powerful emotions are a blade without a handle. Wielded without wisdom, they will cut the hand that holds them. The abbot was consumed by the very love that once defined his humanity. But that is only half the story. Through Master Kaian, we learn that the priest's obsessive energy was not inherently evil, but a power that needed to be redirected, not extinguished. He took the same white-hot intensity that created the demon and aimed it at a single, ego-shattering point. The line between a saint and a monster, it seems, is not a wall. It is a razor's edge, and our place on that edge is decided by a simple and eternal choice: what we choose to hold on to and what we are willing, finally, to let go.